So for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been researching the phenomenon of giant skeletons that have been found mainly in North America, but also all over the world. What really interested me about this to start with was I was looking at megalithic sites and mound sites in North America. And I connected with my colleague and friend now, Jim Vieira, who we wrote the book Giants on Record eventually. And the more we looked into these ancient sites, because we were just interested in these sites, the more we came across records of actual giants building them and often buried within them, especially the mound sites in the Ohio Valley and the surrounding area, but also even at the megalithic sites we find up in New England and New York State. And so the further we looked into this, we realized there was an actual cover-up instigated by the Smithsonian Institution, going from virtually when they were founded in the mid-1800s right up until the mid-1900s. So there's a real serious problem here with the real history of North America, and this culminated in the book Giants on Record, also in the TV show for History Channel called Search for the Lost Giants, which was a 6-part series. And since then, we found more accounts. We've got about 1,500 accounts from academic records, from universities and colleges, from prestigious newspapers, and people like doctors and surgeons and lawyers were finding these skeletons and bones within these mounds, ranging from 7 foot up to about 14 feet tall. And some had double rows of teeth. Some had very large jaws, so they were quite a different type of human, like a very powerful type of human. And they certainly didn't suffer with gigantism or acromegaly or anything like that. It was something much more. And so we looked into it, and we found, the more we looked into it, we realized there was more of a cover-up. And this kind of disturbed us, so we researched it thoroughly. We connected and worked with a brilliant researcher called Ross Hamilton, who we actually call the godfather of giantology, and various other researchers, and realised that it's not just in North America. There's a genuine kind of story regarding these giants that often people just believe they're myth and legend and even bedtime stories read to children and things like this. But the deeper you look and you look beneath the surface, you realise there's much more going on. I mean, even in Britain and all over Europe, we find accounts, even the founding kind of traditions of Britain are based upon giants. We have that in other countries as well. We have the whole Nordic giants and things like this, the Titans of Greece. And there's even giant tribes still alive and well in Africa. And the more and the deeper you look and the further you look back, you keep finding more evidence, even back to 12,000 years ago. That's even in North America. So we really have to question, number one, were there really giants on Earth? Is it just myth and legend? And number two, why has it been covered up? And why can't we just accept there was taller people than us in prehistory? And that really compelled me to want to research it even more, because there's a potential cover-up. And so we've stretched our research around the world, and it's really culminated in, it's going to be a couple of books we're going to do in the future. And we're linking it now very strongly with the megalithic sites, because we're finding more and more evidence, more traditions and more stories and more bones and skeletons connected and found within or very close to many megalithic sites all around the world. And so we really are kind of pulling the rug back, and we're going to sort of hopefully find some real evidence. One of the big problems is that the bones often get removed. The problem with the cover-up in North America, for instance, the Smithsonian Institution had an agenda of manifest destiny, where they wanted to push out all the Native Americans and take over the land and put them on reservations. So they couldn't cope with the fact that they kept finding these super powerful skeletons and bones all over, in these Native American sites. Also, evolution was being championed at the time, Charles Darwin's version of humanity, which is faulty, obviously, and they don't fit in with that, because there's giant skeletons which are 10,000 years old. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with evolution. So they covered it up. They're the two main reasons. There's a lot more to it than that, which I'm discussing in the lecture, and we cover in the book. But we find the same principles at play all over the world. The fact that there was some kind of cover-up, and we hope one day in the future to have good, solid evidence that there was indeed giant races around the world. Just because it's been removed from our traditional history and academia, and so we're just really looking for a search or a quest for our true origins here on planet Earth. So another aspect of finding evidence of these giants, especially in North America, is in the 1500s, for instance, there were early explorers traveling over to America, the Spanish, the English, and some French explorers and so forth, and they witnessed these giants, these Native American giants, who often attacked them. And some had red hair, some had blonde hair, some were even fair skinned, so it's a very strange mix of different types in North America. Some were classic Native American looking as well. And so this really caused a lot of confusion about what was going on in North America then. And these have been recorded by such explorers as Sir Francis Drake from England. We have various quite famous Spanish explorers. Even they were witnessed even in South America, at the bottom tip of South America, in Patagonia, which is Chile and Argentina. And they were witnessed there in the 1500s as well. But right up until the early 1900s in North America, these giants existed and they were alive and well. The Osage Indians, for instance, were witnessed by some of the early presidents. And even Abraham Lincoln mentioned stories of giants in one of his speeches that he did at Niagara. And so we know it's a genuine phenomenon, but all the bones and skeletons have been removed and quite possibly destroyed by the Smithsonian. And in 1990, the Nagpur Act, or the Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, was introduced in North America, which was a collaboration between the government and the federal government and the Native American elders. And so all grave goods and skeletons were removed from public display. So before 1990, basically in the 1980s, there were giant skeletons on display at different libraries, museums, academic institutions, and we have evidence of this with photos as well. And so everyone knows it's a reality, but it's not mentioned anywhere. It's deliberately kind of like a spell has been broken now, and the information's now coming forth. Or many of the megalithic structures around the world are attributed to being built by giants because they couldn't understand how anyone could move such large stones. We're looking at, if you look at Peru, for instance, places like Tiwanaku, it's said a race of giants were created by the great god Viracocha, who was a kind of fair-skinned god who came from another land, apparently, and he created these giants from the earth, these stone giants, and they built all these sites along what was called the Path of Viracocha. In England, in Stonehenge, for instance, which used to be called the Giant's Dance, that was the first ever name that's been recorded in history, is the Giant's Dance. The earliest depiction of Stonehenge shows a giant lifting one of the large lintels into place, with Merlin directing him. And there's been giant skeletons between 9 and 14 foot reported, found in that area. And so you can find many different stories like this, where the traditions that have been passed down from generation to generation are now matching what is actually being dug out of the ground. And if this is the case, it gives a clue, and it might even be the ultimate evidence of who and how these sites were built. In North America, it's actually illegal to have, even touch, photograph, or witness any bones or anything like this. But in one museum in Philadelphia called the Mutter Museum, which is like a surgical museum, there's a giant skeleton, 7'6", not a huge one, but 7'6" is still pretty tall, on display there. And that was found in northern Kentucky. Could be a mound-builder giant. We're not too sure. So that would be interesting to get some tests done on that. In England, they were found so long ago, the reports are so old, there's very little on display, but we have photos of various bones and skeletons in various parts of the world. So yeah, the evidence is sparse, but the accounts are so strong, and the academic record has recorded this as well. We must take this seriously and see what we can come up with. And I put it out there to people who are watching this or watched our TV show or read the book to contact us and actually let us know if they know of any skulls or bones they've got in their basement, or the local museum might have some, because there are definitely some around the world. And I've actually witnessed one in England, in the Thirsk Museum up in Yorkshire, England, which was over a 7 foot or taller giant that was found in an earthwork up there.